Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Branches of Hope podcast, where we dive into all things mental health, personal growth, and building a life of resiliency. I'm Rachel Weaver, your co host, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. And who I have with me is.
I'm Tina Smith. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I'm glad to be here with you also. Thank you for joining us.
If you're new here, Branches of Hope is not just a podcast, it's a community. We're also on YouTube, where we share helpful videos on mental health topics. You can visit our website at branchesofhope.com to learn more about our services and education on our blog. Be sure to subscribe and follow for more updates. Today's topic is about self-care, a term we often hear, but it's really misunderstood. Tina, would you like to talk more on that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm glad that we're talking about self-care. There are different aspects of self-care that people really take for granted. So sometimes, just thinking about self-care, we typically go to how we're eating, how we're sleeping, physical health, things of those natures. But self-care is really a lot deeper than that. And so I like to think of the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. Many times we can pinpoint things going on with our bodies easier because it's a physical attribute. It's something that we can physically see. Mentally, sometimes that's more of a struggle, but taking the time out to stop and think and create awareness is very important to figure out how can we treat our mind. And then spiritually, we can be broken spiritually. I think joy is a spiritual aspect, negative or positive. I think our spiritual life should be addressed as well. So it's mind, body, and spirit that we need to consider self-care in those different aspects.
Could you tell me what are some misconceptions about self-care? Because I'll give you one.
Okay.
I'll give you one. So me trying to practice self-care, I'm a mom. I have 3 boys and they're all little. And I feel like self-care can sometimes be selfish, even though it's necessary. I feel like I'm focusing on me. But I think that's a misconception because it's necessary. So that's just one. But do you have any other misconceptions about
Yeah,
self-care?
I think that's a good topic that you bring up. I often talk about this idea of the of analogy of being in a plane, and when the airline stewardess says they come in to give you instructions on how to use this oxygen mask that comes down should the cabin lose pressure, and it said they will tell you put the mask on you so and breathe through. However, if you're with a small child, you should put the mask on you first so that you can help the child. So a lot of times we will give up things that we need to do for ourselves in order to help others. And then in turn, we begin to suffer slowly and not realize it. So it's like losing that oxygen. You can't help others unless you help yourself first. So thinking about that should put it in a different perspective for you to be able to take time out for yourself, make time for yourself to take care of yourself.
True.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So another misconception is that, and you said it earlier, that self-care is not just about your physical wellness, but it's about body, mind, and spirit. What are some other types of self-care that we should be focusing on, that are neglected?
Let's see. Many times I see that with the physical, that's neglected so often now because we're in an age or time where we're always in a hurry or need to do something and we don't take the time off for necessity things for our bodies. So the main body concerns that people don't give enough attention to is their sleeping habits. We have a circadian rhythm that our body needs to go through, which is that day and nighttime rhythm. And at night, our bodies produce certain hormones that help us to heal. So we need to get good sleep. Many times I hear people say, well, I can't fall asleep. I have trouble sleeping. And it was like, well, it's just like it is. That's just how it is. I just, I could sleep on 4 hours and I'm good. Well, are you really good? So the telltale sign of that is, how are you the next day? Are you irritable? How are your relationships with people? Do you feel a little bit more stressed? And then some people just thrive. They feel like they thrive off of that, but it's really not healthy. So sleep is very important.
You're right about that. I remember being in school and taking 5 classes and thinking, I could do it, and having 3 boys and a husband
Right.
and getting 4 hours of sleep and then trying to be able to take care of my boys the next day and do classes. And I was a zombie. I realized that I really needed to rest because a lot of things, my body began to feel like it was breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that I learned in that time period was turn your phone off,
Mm-hmm.
put your laptop away,
Mm-hmm.
because you're talking about circadian rhythm. That blue light really
Yeah.
messes up. That light from the phone,
Right.
it really messes that up, and it makes me stay up longer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so
So
yeah, you're
yeah. So our bodies tend to. Well, first of all, we like to be entertained. So if you're looking at something, thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna just look at this for a little bit, and then I'm gonna put it down and go to sleep." Well, unfortunately, your phone and other devices, and even the binge watching, they've learned to capture your attention and keep it there. And we have to be wise enough to say, okay, this is not good. Let me put this down. Let me create a habit of going to sleep at a certain time. Let me create sleep hygiene habit. Like people have a facial habits that they do, like before they go to bed, they do their facial things, stuff like that too. So you have to,
routine.
yeah, routine, exactly, that's the word I'm looking for, routine. So you need to create a routine for sleep as well,
Hmm.
and to stay on that pattern. For me, I've learned to go to sleep at a certain time, and then it's like my body has become so adjusted that I really don't need an alarm clock in the morning because it wakes me up at the same time every morning. So I've created that habit of going to sleep at a certain time. Actually, my body decided, look, you created this habit. So why are you trying to stay up? You can't do this. So just go to bed. So I'm so glad that my body has created that habit, because when I'm off of it, I notice that I'm more irritable.
Hmm.
I notice that my focus is off and different things. And so, because I'm able to notice that, I can go back and say, well, what have I done? I can do an inventory of what I've done the past couple of nights or couple of days to see, okay, what's going on with me, and then get back into the routine. Recognize that I've been into this routine that I need to get back to. And many people just don't even have a routine. So learning what works best for you is one of the things that you should do for self-care.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess the next thing I want to move on to, since I got a list up here of the different type of self-care.
Right.
So
Okay.
because I Googled it. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. But I wanted to let's talk about emotional and
Mhm.
your mental self-care, and what are some things you can do to protect yourself there.
When you bring up
Here's
emotion,
one.
okay, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I have one
Okay.
because mine says, I don't know how healthy this is, but I will cut off people
Uh-huh.
who are mentally distressing me, or I will cut off a relationship that is mentally distressing or emotionally distressing, no
Mhm.
matter how hard I've tried to fix it. I just know that that's not going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
So I will just stop.
Right, right.
Does that make sense?
Actually, that's what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about setting healthy, yeah, I was going to talk about setting healthy boundaries. So we have to set healthy boundaries with our loved ones. Even the ones that, even with our own kids that we live with, we just have to
Yeah.
set healthy we have to set healthy boundaries, because it will affect you. It will just, it affect you emotionally. It'll affect you. It will increase your stress level if you're not ready to handle it. So
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling vulnerable, first of all, you have to be aware that you are feeling vulnerable. Then you may have to set a boundary for a period of time, regroup, think about how you want to approach something, and then say, okay, maybe I should engage, okay, maybe I shouldn't engage, and then you make that decision. So you delay your response by understanding that you're vulnerable at the time, and knowing your vulnerabilities is very important to develop as well, to understand how your body and how your mind reacts when you're feeling vulnerable. So so then you have to set those healthy boundaries with people. I think one thing that's important is that you can, when I say set a healthy boundary, I mean be honest with yourself and be honest with others, so that they can understand and you're not coming across rude, and that you're doing it for yourself. And it's like they may not understand, but you have to like rip the band-aid off to get them to understand. It'll heal, because as long as you keep hiding it, or you like trying to beat around the bush as far as why you're trying to stay away from a certain situation, then that's not good. You might as well just say, okay, you know what, look, what you're dealing with, I want to be there for you, but it's really heavy for me, and I can't handle it right now. And I need to set a boundary right now between us and what you're dealing with, because I really can't help you, and I'm so sorry.
People don't like those.
That's right. That's the ripping the band-aid off, you know? And
They don't like boundaries. I don't like boundaries. But I respect that.
yeah, right. You have to. Yeah, you have to. But if someone is like constantly beating around the bush with you, then that's that's not good. That's not, if so, say for instance, you're if you're beating around the bush with someone, and because they're coming at you and they're needing you, and you're vulnerable, and you're not able to give like you would want to. It's not that you don't want to, it's just like maybe you just can't. And so if you don't let them know, then it's hard for them to understand him, and it might turn out to be worse letting something
It's true.
fester than
Mm-hmm.
allowing the process to heal.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I want to tell a story, but I don't know if I
It's hard to think about. It's really hard. I wanted to, this whole podcast experience and going into this journey, you do kind of think about your own life and your own situation and stuff like that too. So, but at the same time, and many, because many people can relate, you know,
hmm
but we do need to be careful with how we say things, because we don't want anybody to get offended, and hurt by some of the things that we're dealing with. So it's a difficult process. I don't know how some people can do it, because just putting your life out on display. I just don't even see how some people could do it. Yeah.
Well, let's just put it like this. Okay. I know someone who, is working on the job. They're great workers. They have a coworker, and this coworker speaks to them really ugly. And they don't say anything about it. They don't say anything. They don't like it, but they don't say nothing about it. And they just kind of ignore it. But then they come home to me and then they complain about it. And I was like, why don't you say something to them? Well, it was like, I don't know if I should. But then this person just gradually keeps being ugly to
hmm
them, and it becomes a routine. Like they
hmm
just feel like they can do it. And I'm like, you've got to talk and set a boundary and say, hey, you can't talk to me like that.
Yeah,
Or
I think you're
talk with the
absolutely right.
supervisor.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but not
yeah,
everybody can get to that place. You know,
that's true.
no, everybody can't get to that place. And so, as a therapist, I see people all the time that deal with that struggle. They have people that live in their house that, they're like, well, I'm struggling with this and I don't know how to get out of it. And then there's like the writing is on the walls, like, okay, this is what you probably need to do to change your situation.
True.
And then they struggle with it. A lot of people struggle with that. And so having someone to talk to, and not necessarily bounce ideas off, but to hear yourself. It's like, and so, okay, actually, I have an idea for you. with this person. All right. So reflection is so important, and validation is a form of reflection. So when this person comes to you and they're like, well, I'm dealing with this, this, and this, then you validate what they're feeling by repeating back to them what they just said so they can see it and hear it, and then allow them to come to terms with how they should handle it. And you're just guiding them through validation. Does that help?
It does, but I'm gonna need you to pray for me. I'm gonna try to do that, but pray for me.
Definitely.
Speaking of praying for me,
Yes,
let's
yes.
talk about this spiritual
Oh,
self-care.
yes, right. Yeah. So when I think of spiritual self care, I think of my creator, the one that created me, the one that knows me inside and out, the one that provides
Mhm,
everything for me, that has provided
mhm,
things for me, for a very long time, for all my life, right? So, with that being said, there's this one scripture that I'm reminded of often, and it has to deal with peace, and that he supplies me with peace. Like he gives the peace that surpasses all understanding. Right? That means I don't
mhm,
know where this peace came from, but I have this overall sense of peace. And I
mhm.
love when I get that feeling, especially when I've been dealing with something so stressful and so hard that I just get this overwhelming sense of peace. And then I'm like, thank you, God, for giving that to me. Sometimes it comes at a point of just being still. So when I'm still, when I need to be still, when he tells me, okay, you just need to be still, then I may reflect or look at his beauty. So going outside and looking at nature and breathing in the air that he provided for us, looking at the beautiful, majestic trees and become mindful in that. And so when you become mindful in that, then that's when you can tap into that sense of peace and know that, you know what, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
Yeah,
I'm going to get through this. And so that's
yeah,
that's a spiritual aspect of what I'm talking about as far as self care.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Doing that puts me in a good mindset. It helps. I like to go out and get away from the loud in my
Hmm.
house.
Hmm.
And so I do need to be still because a lot of times I be doing too much. I'm doing far too much.
Right.
And I do need time to pull away and have that alone time with God.
Hmm.
And one thing I like to try to practice is having an attitude of gratitude
Hmm.
and being optimistic. I like to, I always say when things are really hard, you know what? It could always be worse.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
It could always be worse. And I like to try to be grateful for for what I have and see where I am in the present moment and be
Right.
like, okay, this is where I am. This is what I'm dealing with. My situation is not what I want it to be, but it could be worse. And I am just so thankful that it's not
Hmm.
worse.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and then I find myself giving thanks to God for that.
Yeah.
And then I'm less irritated about my situation.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yes, spiritual self-care is I think it's really overlooked in our society today.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Because we're in a hurry up and get it done and move on to the next thing society. We don't take the time out to be still and to just appreciate what's around us, appreciating life, appreciating those that are still a part of our life, and taking time out to do that, and it's just that word peace. I keep coming back to that word peace. That's what we want. It's not so much the word happiness. It's like I need a sense of peace.
That is really in our culture, happiness. I just have to be happy.
Hmm.
You know, that's what everybody says. I'm with this person because they make me happy. What happens when they don't? You know,
Right. Yeah.
they're bound to not make you happy at some point.
Yeah.
But, I think we rely too much on happiness, but I think we fail to realize that happiness depends on what happens a lot of times.
Yeah, happiness is like when I look at happiness, it's more like a moment to moment thing. Like, I could go to a
Hmm.
movie and see a good movie, and I'm like, oh, that was a good movie, and I was happy in the moment, right?
Hmm.
But also is a moment to moment thing. Sadness, sadness is in the moment. Just but it feels more heavier because it's just like a heavy blanket, that just you just carry around this heavy blanket of sadness with you, and happiness sounds like more lighthearted and feels good and everything too. But that happiness was just as much of a moment as that sadness. So why can't we go back and reflect on things that made us feel happy and get back into that joyful thought, as much as we can hang around with sadness and stay sad. It's like, let's make a choice. Okay, what are we going to do? Like, okay, and then that creates awareness. Let's get, once again, awareness of where you are so you can know where you need to go.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
That is true.
Yeah.
We should focus on choosing to focus on what did make us happy versus focusing on what made us sad.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You have a choice. You don't necessarily have to, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, have to feel that emotion if you don't want to.
It's not, it is very difficult to get out of, like, say if you lost a loved one, oh my gosh, it's like, that's hard to get over, especially if it just recently happened. So I'm just give like self-reflection. Yesterday would have been the 14th year of my mom's passing, right? But it doesn't hit me as much as it hit me when it first happened, right? And so I still feel it, that it still is present with me. But then I make a choice, like, okay, let me not waddle, let me not wade in this river of sadness. Let me get out and focus on something else that's gonna, put my attention in a more positive way. Yeah. So at some point it is really too heavy to handle. And so when those things are really too heavy, then self-care will require you to go seek help, go talk to somebody, and deal with that emotion. That's self-care. Yeah. Or you can choose to, or if you can, then you try to help yourself. So if you can tap into helping yourself, that will be good. But some people have to get to that place, and it's okay if you're not in that place. But that's, once again, awareness, like, know where you are so you can know, okay, what do I need to do, because I don't like being in this place. And then you go seek some help for it. Yeah.
So another aspect of self-care is something that a lot of people don't think about, and that's financial.
Mm-hmm.
Like managing your bills or developing a budget,
Mm-hmm.
or having an emergency fund. A lot of people just
Mm-hmm.
don't think about that. But I think that a lot of people's stress tends to stem from not having a financial care plan put together.
Yeah. A lot of people struggle in this area, especially if you live in paycheck to paycheck, and it's really hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when all you can do is see right now and what you're struggling right now. And so making a budget is, a lot of people don't like to do the planning. And making a budget requires a hard look at your situation. And
I don't like doing
no,
that.
it's a hard, it's a hard look. And so, and the thing about it too is, it takes away from your ability to have a moment of instant gratification. So, for instance, if you are paying that $10 a month Netflix bill, well, when you sit down, say you don't have that oh Lord, say you don't have that next Netflix bill.
Netflix.
Say you've been enjoying Netflix for the past year, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, we're about to enter 2025. I'm going to cut out some things that I've been enjoying, but I don't necessarily need. I'm going to cut out Netflix. Come January.
I love Netflix.
Right. So come the following month, when it's finally cut off, and you go to sit down, and you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna watch me a good movie on Netflix. It's not there, right? Right now you can enjoy it because it's there. And at any moment there's an instant gratification that say, okay, I'm gonna enjoy Netflix because it's right there. But then when you cut it out and then you replace it with something else that can be entertaining, or, just something else, right? Then it's no longer a problem. You stop missing it, And guess what? You've added $10 to your budget. So that's the sacrifice. People have to sacrifice instant gratification. Like, oh, I want a coffee, the mocha, whatever, blah, 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 Starbucks, next wonderful coffee blend. Starbucks might not like this, this little negative advertisement against them, but it's expensive.
I'm still going. I like Starbucks.
But that's the instant gratification. It's instant Netflix right now. Starbucks. All right, now this is your budget. What are you trying to accomplish? That's the thing. Okay, what am I trying to accomplish? Do I want to stop living paycheck to paycheck? I've been this year. I've embraced Dave Ramsey's plan. So many people may not know Dave Ramsey, but a lot of people know exactly what I'm talking about. And he has this like hardcore approach to managing your finances. But at the end of it, he makes this statement to live like, I forgot exactly how he said it. I'm going to have to get it right. Live like nobody. Like right now, you live like nobody else would live. So that later on, when you're done with this and you've paid off all your bills, then you can live and give like no other. You can put yourself in a position. Yeah, you can put yourself in a position to be more of a giver and bless others. But right now, if you're struggling with your finances, then the only thing you're looking at is like, okay, the next paycheck is already accounted for because you're struggling trying to catch up, rob people to pay Paul, right?
I think that saying can go for more than just your finances. It can go for most of the stuff we've been talking about. If you don't have a plan for how you're going to take care of yourself, you can't really give to others like you want.
Yeah, you can't even give up your time. You can't give up a whole lot of things that you can do for others because you're struggling. You're barely staying above water. You're not drowning.
I mean, you're limited financially. You're limited emotionally, spiritually, physically because you're tired.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you really can't afford to give to anybody or pour into anybody just because you don't have a self-care plan.
Yeah.
And so I like how that all ties into everything. But I mean, you said some hard stuff.
Yeah.
Boundaries, budget. I mean, those are the B words I do not like. But it's necessary. It is necessary.
It is necessary. It's necessary.
Some people get really uncomfortable talking about finances. I watched this episode of Blackish a long time ago.
Yeah, I love it.
Where have you seen the episode where Rainbow is? She's it was about to talk about money, and she started sweating. She's like, "Oh no, I can't talk about this." So.
Yeah, and the fact that she's a doctor in this on this show, so you would think, oh, she makes enough money. Some people think that like, oh, they got that money, they can do whatever they want.
No,
not if you're not managing it right.
It's going.
We tend to we tend to live above our means. That's what we do. We tend to live above our means, and society does not help us do better. So the other thing that I like to say about the profound thing that Dave Ramsey was talking about, and this is biblical, is that do not be a slave to the borrower. Do not be shackled and chained to this debt that's just holding you down, weighing you down. It's like, okay, you know what? Yeah, my ancestors have been enslaved enough, so let me not do this with this finance thing too.
That's true. That's true. I'm enslaved right now to a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. So just think if you were to take, now I'm gonna call you out on this. Just think if you were to take that little $5-7 Starbucks and put it towards that mortgage. Let's breathe.
Well, this was a great podcast show. I need my Starbucks, Christina.
It's a hard reality. It's a hard reality. You know what? A cup of good coffee from HEB. Get you some creamer.
I
Creamer that'll
guess
last you for the rest of the week.
I give.
All right, and then treat yourself. You know what? You could budget as long as if you budget it in there, then you're good. How about that? You know what? Because I
I
don't
can
want you
do
to be
that.
miserable. So if you budget and you're like, okay, this is the day I will treat myself. It's in my budget. I can do this, and then you reward
Okay.
yourself. All right. That sounds better.
I like rewards. I do.
Okay.
I do. I like that.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna tell you what.
Right.
I know we will never be endorsed by Starbucks or Netflix.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, you're right. Maybe so.
We'll never be sponsored by them.
Maybe so. So, but I don't know. They have a hold on this, so I don't think they probably care one way or another. They know that they have people hooked. So if you're gonna be
They
hooked,
do.
then okay,
They do.
just be careful
I
what has their
actually
hooks in you.
canceled my Netflix some years ago,
Uh-huh.
and then I just came back. So,
Uh-huh.
because they got some good shows.
Yeah. Well, you know
They
what?
got some great shows.
This is so it's pretty sad that I canceled my Netflix too. Okay. However, so T-Mobile might like this. I'm with T-Mobile, and they gave me a free Netflix account. However,
Yeah,
but it's with ads, and I can't share it. So two people can't watch it at the same time. So they make it miserable for you to be able to enjoy
I
it.
know.
But I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna suffer through these ads, get through this show. Might take me a little bit longer, but guess what? It's free.
It's free. I'm actually really cheap, so the ads is okay with me. I'm
Uh-huh.
like, it's like I'm watching real TV,
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
I'm okay. I haven't watched real TV in a long time.
Mhm.
All I do is stream.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, the ads make it feel like real television. It's the same
Uh-huh.
way with my Disney Plus.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a sacrifice. That some people, it might be too much of a sacrifice for some people. You never know. You got to think about it. Like give yourself. You know how people go on which is another part of self care. They go on a media fast. Some people realize that that for self care for them, they may have to take a break from social media. So they go on this fast. And I think that's so awesome when people are strong enough to do it, recognize that they need to do it, and then they take an assessment of their life afterwards. And many times it's so much better when they've done that.
I think that leads us into our next
Oh,
point,
okay.
which is social self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you said about setting boundaries is a part of social self-care
Mm-hmm.
and getting off of social media. I actually got off of social media back in 2015. I just noticed myself doing this really unhealthy thing of staring at other people's lives and then thinking my life is not great because look at their lives. And all I see is everybody's highlights. I don't see what's
Oh,
really
yeah.
happening, but it caused me to be so down about my situation or about where, just looking at what I had, not being thankful for it.
Mm-hmm.
It just put me in a bad frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself being just depressed.
Right.
So I decided to cut off social media for a while, just because it was becoming toxic for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a lot of people can tend to do that lately, which is so good, and if you find yourself in that position where you're giving to your time is valuable, managing your time is a part of self-care. You only have so much time in a day, and if you're going to spend so many hours looking at somebody else's life, dealing with or even watching Netflix for hours, and you don't set a time, you have to set a boundary with your time as well. Speaking of boundaries, and manage your time. You have 24 hours in a day. How many of those hours are you going to devote to sleeping? How many of those hours you're going to devote to spending time with your family and doing things with your family? How many hours of that day you're going to spend on working on yourself, whether it be at your job or school? You only have so much time in a day. So
That's true.
so be wise and plan it out to where, you fit in exercise. How many people say, oh, I don't have time for that? Exercise is important.
Really?
Oh, I don't have
That's
time. I
true.
don't have time to eat right. They eat for convenience, and so take a hard look at your life and see where you are in that area, and that, with self-care, with taking care of yourself, mind, body, spirit.
So I can recall a time where I was scrolling on social media and I saw this woman who was bigger at one point and lost all this weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I'm so happy she lost all this weight. And then, but why didn't I lose anyway? And then there's this toxic comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm realizing that had I not been scrolling on social media, wasting time, I could have been working myself, working the weight off
Mm-hmm.
the way she was. Do I think she just magically got skinny out of it,
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere? No.
Right.
She worked at it and she put in the time. And so I'm realizing, well, I realized then that, okay, I was saying that social media was toxic, but no, I was becoming a toxic person due to social media. And so I realized that, okay, I need to get off of here because I'm staring at other people's lives and my life isn't getting any better. And I need to put the time in to make my life
Mm-hmm.
go in the direction I want it to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
we're not going to be endorsed by Instagram or I do see that happening too.
Right, right. I know we're telling people like, take a break. Listen to us right now, but then afterwards, take a break and make sure you come back and tune in for what
Yeah,
else.
yeah, come back.
Come back later.
But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's another topic we can talk about is comparison, or I don't know how to put it, but like
Well, I know our self-esteem is affected.
self-esteem. There we
Self-esteem,
go.
yeah, self-esteem is affected by many aspects of our lives. It's like, oh my gosh, sometimes I have these profound thoughts in my head. I'm like, okay, I like to play on words. So I took the word self-esteem and say, okay, what does this mean? Why, until I had a client who said, like, oh, I have a problem with that word self-esteem. Until in that moment, God showed me, break down the word for her, self esteem. Like, and so I told her, I said, well, self esteem is thinking of esteeming yourself highly, like it's like self worth. So she was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So I like to take the stigma from this word to self esteem. And I like for people to say, okay, let me esteem myself highly. What am I doing to myself where I'm not providing all the things that I need to provide for myself? You know what? And when you have that thought, then you can start digging into, well, I need to start really taking better care of myself with self care.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, and with
I
that
guess
being
that
said,
is
yeah, well, I was going to say, it's like, and when you're thinking about yourself, you think about yourself, not yourself needing to look like that person, or yourself needing to have that career that someone else has, or needing to be like someone else. It's like, okay, meet yourself where you are, and then see where can I go from here, and then you just take those steps so that you can create self-worth for yourself where you are, and not compare yourself. So you're looking at your abilities and what you have right now, and improving in those things that you have control over.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what are some practical self-care tips that, people can kind of start doing? Because there's a lot. We talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about physical self-care, mental. We talked about financial, social, spiritual. That's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And maybe somebody may feel a little overwhelmed, like, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know it was that many. But what are some small things that they can first start doing? You said for financial, cut a little bit of things out. But what are
Mm-hmm.
some things that they could start doing to focus on the other things? Just small things they could work on.
Small things that they can work on. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about the small things that they can work on because every person is different. You don't know where someone is to say, okay, well, work on this. There's no cookie cutter as far as what I can tell somebody to work on, unless I get to
Mm-hmm.
know them. Unless I get to know them. So I will probably first say, take the time out to do an inventory.
Awareness, that's that word we was
Yeah,
talking
that comes
be
back
aware of
around.
where you are and look at what the problem is.
Right, right, yeah.
Where which area are you struggling in?
Yeah, yeah. And so if you're struggling with taking time out to even take an inventory, whew, okay, you need to find it. You need to find the
So
time to do it.
that that person needs therapy.
Well, yeah, maybe, not necessarily. Because if they can create an awareness and then say, okay, you know what, I can start this. I see where I'm struggling with this. And if they can create the awareness, then that will be good. But if they need someone to talk to about it all, then yeah. I mean, because as for me as a therapist, as a mental health counselor, it's like that's the first thing that we do is creating awareness of what's going on in their lives. And it's like a light bulb comes on, and then they're able to be instrumental in planning the things that they need to do for their own lives. And it's just amazing to see when that light bulb comes on and they're like, well, you know what, I didn't even think about it that way. And so maybe I ought to do these things differently. And then they begin the process. And some may say, well, I didn't think of it that way, but I don't even know what to do to change things. And so then that begins a whole nother conversation about the practical things that they can do in their lives. It all depends. Everyone's different. Everyone's unique.
Hmm.
Everybody has their own
That's
everyone has their own mental health journey where they are.
that's true.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know. I guess that's not really a good answer for you. Other than say
Well,
like
no, the answer is a practical self-care tip
uh-huh.
to start off with is to take an inventory and
Uh-huh.
become aware of what exactly is the problem. Where are you struggling? And then from there, you can take necessary steps. So if you're struggling, I'm guessing physically, and that maybe we'll focus on your sleep. So a small thing we could probably do is put the phone in another room.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah, yeah. I think,
And
if you what I would like to say though, to start off, I like to challenge the viewers, people, the listeners. So take a piece of paper and write down where you think you are, and then start to write down little things that you can change. So it's on paper. And the reason why I say put it on paper is because a lot of times our minds can be like the hamster wheel and just constantly thinking over and over and over again about this situation, about this, whatever. So when you put it on paper, you can see it and you don't have to constantly go back to it. It's like a reoccurring thought. It's kind of, which is a whole other topic, when people can't sleep, because a lot of times they have reoccurring thoughts. So,
oh yeah,
yeah.
that's
So that's a
did
whole,
I
that's a whole other topic.
turn off the oven?
Yeah.
Oh, did I give that baby that medicine? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
so yeah.
Yeah. So if you take the time out because you want to start this journey on better self care, then write down where you think you are, and listen to some of the things we've talked about here, and see where you can actually make some changes in your life. But write it down so you can see it, and it makes it more real too, and it gets out of your mind. Your brain can only hold so much at the time.
Hmm.
And then when you see it on paper, you can make the little steps. You can say, okay, I'm gonna improve on this. Or I'm gonna drink more water this week because it helps. That's a whole nother topic we didn't even talk about, was food and and that. So
Hmm.
so just think about, where can I improve, or where do I need to improve, or even seeing it on paper, you can see where you might struggle and don't know where to improve. So that's when you may decide, okay, let me find someone that can help me in this area because I'm really struggling.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think this was good.
Yeah.
This is good for our first
I think we
podcast.
did pretty good.
I think so.
Hmm.
Well, I hope today's conversation inspires everyone that's listening and help you to embrace self-care as a vital part of your life. Remember, it's not selfish to partake in self-care. It's necessary.
Vital.
Yes, it is. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, check out our YouTube channel and videos for more content, and please visit the branchesofhope.com website to connect with us. Also, if you're in the Texas area, you can book a free 15-minute initial consultation with Tina. Thank you so much for joining us in this journey, and until next time, take care of yourself.